So welcome to the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast. I'm Hannah Zachney, and I'm so honored to be here today with Amanda Yasbek, who is my friend and a certified family law attorney. She has been introduced to me by mutual friends over the years, and we fast became friends. My team of therapists refers to her, as many people going through life's challenges are in need of a family law attorney. And she's very generously been a guest speaker for my Heart Wide Open Women's Wellness membership, where many women have very specific questions that can feel overwhelming to be asked in the everyday world. So she's graciously makes herself available to so many communities, is active in the community on so many levels, and just really honored to have you here today. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. On a professional note, I will go ahead and read her professional background. Amanda is a certified family law specialist who brings over a decade of unwavering dedication to her role as the owner of Onyx Law Offices. Her journey into the legal profession was fueled by a profound desire to impact her clients' lives positively. With unwavering passion, she founded her practice driven by heartfelt commitment to delivering unparalleled legal representation. Ms. Yasbek's affinity for law and aiding others traces back to her childhood, evolving into an unshakable devotion over the years. Her resolute dedication to guiding clients through the intricacies of family law and estate planning propels her daily efforts. She earned her Juris Doctorate from the University of the Pacific McGeorge School of Law and was duly admitted to the State Bar of California. Her passion for international law led her to study abroad in Salzburg, Austria, which we will ask questions about that later, where she obtained her International Legal Studies certificate and had the esteemed privilege of learning under Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. More questions. Before she ventured out on her own, Amanda gathered invaluable experience working alongside esteemed firms, recognized as a leader in the family law industry. Amanda has been honored as the best attorney in Folsom for 5 consecutive years. Onyx Law Office is an award-winning law office priding itself on exceptional service and a steadfast commitment to helping those in need. Beyond her professional pursuits, Ms. Yasbek is deeply involved in her community, generously dedicating her time and expertise to various initiatives and causes. When she's not advocating for her client, she treasures moments with her husband, daughter, and her dog in Tahoe, surrounded by family or exploring new destinations through travel, which is very accurate. She's just returning from Europe and on her way to Hawaii next.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that's such an amazing background. We're excited to learn what we can, and thank you so for your time, which is just, again, making yourself available and donating your knowledge to the community. At the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast, we always ask, what does it mean for you to live with your heart wide open?
And like we were talking about before, like doing this is really having me live with my heart wide open, because it really means taking risks, to be vulnerable, to be true to yourself, but also to, be empathetic and compassionate towards others. But yeah, it requires for me to get out of my comfort zone. And becoming an attorney, like I had to do that, and coming here and doing these things, it's doing that very thing. Like it's uncomfortable, but it's something that allows me to grow and help others.
Yeah, which is to me the exact definition of heart wide open, right? It's like it's easier to open and harder to keep it open, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm open, but now I want to shut down, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so wonderful. What does it mean to live with your heart wide open in the work that you do?
As an attorney in family law, there's a lot of different facets of being living with your heart wide open, but being able to one, just be vulnerable with clients. There's, we call it the practice of law. Although I am a specialist, I don't know everything, and there's situations where I may come across something that I've never come across before. And so I reach out to other attorneys. I have mentors. I have other attorneys I can call, and I'm not afraid to tell somebody that's sitting across from me, I need to do some research. I need to talk to other attorneys to see if they have experience, because I don't. So not acting like I know everything.
Yeah.
To be empathetic towards my clients' needs, and to know that they also are living their life, and I'm just an attorney that knows the law, but they're the ones that ultimately have to live with the outcome of the case. So walking them through the process and understanding that they're human, and I'm just doing my job, but they're living the situation. Yeah, and just, being compassionate and, having just relationships with other people, whether it's opposing counsels, the other opposing parties, having respect for them. We're all just living in this world trying to figure it out one day at a time, and just understanding like that empathy and that compassion towards humans in general.
Yeah. I love that I love that so much, but two parts that really stand out to me is one, I think that not having all the answers is actually what makes us trustworthy and makes people comfortable in our care. I have a group practice also, right? So we practice. We don't have all the answers.
Right.
I'm going to do our best, and I find that just being clear with this is what I do know, and this is what I can do for you with that
Right.
that's the foundation to move forward in anything you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then factoring in just what you said with just real, true human care and putting yourself in the shoes of the other person to be able to do that, then that's a good recipe for being able to serve.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way. Over the years, I've learned, right? And as I become a mom, I've been able to be more compassionate towards mothers and even towards fathers, right? In the process, because dealing with custody and situations, it's difficult for anybody to navigate that.
Yeah. How old is you have a daughter?
Yeah, she's 4.
She's 4.
Yeah, going on 14.
Yes.
So full of so much love and sweetness and sass,
Yes.
all of those things.
Well, she's adorable. I see the pictures.
She's amazing.
She's precious. What is it like to know? So tell us a little bit how you got into the area and the specialty of law that you're in. And then I have 1 million questions after that.
Okay. So if you asked me in law school what you wanted to do, I said anything but family law and estate planning. And those are the 2 things I know. So, or that I do. And so what I know is that I didn't really know what I was meant to do. What ended up happening, I went to law school to do criminal defense, and that's my undergrad was criminal justice. And through the process of going through the bar and taking the bar exam, I had a family friend, my friend's mom actually said, "Hey, I think you should do family law. I think you'd be really good at it." And I was a little surprised by that. But I was also in between taking the bar exam again, and I went and started interning for him, a family law attorney here in Folsom. And from there, I started just doing some more research, and I went to go talk to another person who did family law and just interview them, because I like to gather information and make informed decisions.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting offered a job at that firm, and I tried to leave family law and go do criminal after that, and all the doors that opened were family law. So it was just I feel like it's what I was meant to do, and God led me down that path, and I'm really good at it. It's not an easy area of law, but I really am able to help clients through that process, which is why I think I've built a good reputation in the community and helping others.
Beautiful story. It chose you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It sent an angel in the form of a message, like you should go do this part of law.
Yeah, and even still to this day, I'm like, maybe I should do something else, but it's just, and I have a passion for it. I really enjoy helping people, although it's a very difficult area of law. I'm able to, I really like to put together puzzles and really like to figure out strategy and how to get to an end result, whether it's through property or through children or money. And so I feel like I just have a niche for that.
Yeah. Is that kind of what you think the recommendation to go into that specialty? Do you think that was given to you because of that? Or what do you think that was seen in you?
Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe just, I'm not very emotional as a person. So I just be able to separate myself emotionally and be able to see a solution in the midst of a problem. Maybe they saw that in me. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's you don't get rattledness about you. So you probably give that calm presence, especially in times when people are not feeling so calm.
Yeah.
Right. Provide that groundedness for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So what is it like? So walk us through a little bit how you got here after that. So you ended up working for somebody else, and then how did you launch Onyx Law, Family Law, and what is the kind of initiation of you coming into your own business? Where did it start, and where are you now?
Oh gosh. So I never set out to own my own business. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. I'm a really good attorney, and I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good business owner. But what ended up happening is I was at a firm, and I think we were just coming to a point where I just needed to go a separate direction. I wasn't finding that we were on the same page in the way I wanted to grow myself as an attorney and as a leader in the community. And so somebody said, why don't you start your own firm? It might have been my mom. And I started doing some research around that, and the doors just opened. So I ended up going to go look at an office space, and the person that was doing the tour, she said, I'll give you your first month for free. I was worried about overhead and how I'm going to make it work. And she gave me a really affordable rate, and it just kind of like everything fell into place, like just like getting into family law. And I know that when the universe is giving me like the nudge in the right direction, I should take it. So I ended up just taking the leap, and lo and behold, within a couple months, business was really good. I hired my first employee, and from there it has continued to grow. I now have 5 employees, and Onyx Law Office came about after I got married. I had to change my firm name because I was Law Office of Amanda Berger. And I wanted to create a brand, and I wanted to create something that was like near and dear to me. And I was looking at different stones, like my birthstone, my daughter's birthstone. And I just kept going back to onyx. And for whatever reason, but the healing qualities of onyx, the grounding qualities of the onyx stone really held true to what my firm represents. And that's where I created Onyx Law Office. And
what does it represent?
Oh gosh. I can't remember. But it really is about grounding and healing, right? So just in the lotus flower too had to do with that, like in the midst of like the muckiness, the dirtiness, the ugliness of life, something beautiful grows out. And that's really what I try to encourage people through the process of a case, whether it's divorce or custody. At the end of this will be something better on the other side.
So I would love to hear a little bit about the law, and I have some questions just about that, but what has it been like to be a mom and a business owner? And what do you hope that your daughter sees in watching you?
So I was pregnant during the best time ever, which was COVID. And so like in the first part of her life, I was able to work from home. And that was just such a blessing. I didn't have to go to court in high heels. I got to appear on Zoom. So I was really able to be a stay-at-home mom and work full-time at the same time. So I was really fortunate and blessed to have that opportunity. To be a business owner and, working full time and a mom, I mean, I have implemented a work-life balance. Normally I'd work 12-hour days, and now it's really important for me to be there for my daughter, and also my clients, but to know that like my family also needs to be a priority and not just work. So it's been being able to navigate, saying no when so I can say yes to my family, say no to work when I can say yes, so I can say yes, and setting boundaries, which was really difficult for me, was to set boundaries with work, not checking emails after a certain hour or working on the weekends, so I can be a present mom. At the same time, my daughter is very aware of like, I have to go to court. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing, and just try to teach her that it's important to have those responsibilities and to be, we ask her all the time, like what she wants to be, and she wants to be a mom first. It really is. She wants to be a mom so bad, but then she also wants to be a vet. I tell her she should be an attorney because she really likes to argue, but she wants to help animals. And so I always encourage her to just like, at 4, like she's just very determined, which is what I was at that age.
Yeah. What a beautiful modeling you can give her, for sure.
Yeah.
And the more we take care of ourselves, the more we can be there for our clients. So you're really doing both when you take care of yourself. I always say that running a business, because I couldn't agree more, they do not, in becoming a marriage family therapist, you do not have any business in schooling about, I think there's one school in California, for example, and I think UCLA is the only school that includes how to do the business of psychology. They just teach you the psychology. So I'm sure it's kind of similar. I don't know.
There's no business classes for law unless you do business law, but that's how to be a lawyer for businesses.
Right. That's the other side of the business. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think just doing your own business is probably one of the bigger spiritual journeys in a way. It will grow you like
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have done everything wrong as a business owner.
Yeah, well, that's how you learn.
And I mean, I remember one year I had so much turnover, and I remember like all the W-2s at the end of the year, and I was like, I cannot believe I had this many people working for me and nothing really to show for it. And that really forced me to look at the way I was managing my employees and how I was running my practice. And that led me to becoming more vulnerable with my employees and taking their feedback and taking their suggestions and implementing processes that they've like suggested and not being so like, I know everything, you have to listen to me. And that's really kind of that heart wide open, right? Like the question is like, well, how do I do that in my business? And it's been implementing things that I don't necessarily believe will help, but it has allowed my staff to build relationships with each other. And we're like a little family. I mean, we spend more time together than we do with our own families, basically, right? And so like every Monday morning at 9 a.m., we do a Monday morning meetup where we meet together in the conference room. We have pastries or whatever, and we do like icebreaker questions to get to know each other and just talk about things. I do a team building every quarter. So every few months, we're doing some activity. We've done volunteer work as some of that, where we give back to the community. And it allows us to grow closer together, but also to be able to get away from work, right? Because it's important to have a work-life balance, which is what I tell my employees. Like, I was having this conversation with them yesterday. Like, this is just your job. Like, your life is your life. Like that, whatever is going on personally is really important. And if things are going on, like, I want you to talk to me about it. I want to know if something's going to affect your work so I can meet you and help you through that process, you know? But,
and there's a forced, I know my team, we talk about this, we're just about it forces you to really understand your business, because you need to get organized enough to be able to have that space to support everybody when they need. So and then it just teaches you how to do business, and then it teaches you how to be human, and then it teaches you how to do business, and it teaches you how to be human. And it's just this beautiful kind of back and forth.
Right.
Yeah. So I know so many people that are listening are want to know some of the bigger questions that you get. So as a family law attorney, who are the primary clients that you're dealing with? And then what are the main questions that people walk in with?
Primary clients are anybody that are going through a divorce or maybe going through a custody situation. So you don't have to be married, obviously, to have a family law attorney if you have a child in common. And then you said some common questions. Oh, gosh. I think, one of them is, do the courts favor mothers over fathers when it comes to custody? And in this day and age, in 2024, the standard is frequent and continuing contact, which has always been the law. But when I started, over 12 years ago, it did tend to favor more of the moms in situations where both parents were obviously active parents and didn't have any sort of abuse problems or anything. But now the trend is really where both parents are getting 50-50 custody. I think back then you also had less dual income households. You had less people that were both parents were working. I think nowadays we have where both parents are working. And so you can't really use the excuse like, well, one parent is working, the other one isn't. Because generally if you're both working full time, then they're kind of on equal footing. For support and under the realm of custody, we talk about if you have equal parenting time, is there still child support owed? So if you have a high income earner and there's a disparity of income, oftentimes a parent will feel like they don't need to pay child support if it's a 50-50 custody. And that's often why a lot of parents try to get 50-50. But support will still be ordered if it's 50-50, if there is a disparity, because we use a calculator the legislators come up with, and we don't get to determine whether support is ordered or not. It's always by guideline. And September 1st, actually, the law just changed where now support is actually going up because of this new law that came out. So we're finding that even old orders, whereas maybe a lesser amount of support, it's going up substantially just because of the cost of living in California, and it has to be more, up to date with the times.
I know as a therapist, if we're sitting in the room with somebody who has some of these questions, they are, one, it's out of our scope of practice, so we have to refer out, of course. But the distress of just even finding the person to find the answers to, like the overwhelm to, I don't have $1,000,000 to go ask 3 questions kind of a thing. I know that there are not workarounds to get, around your services, but introductions for people and hand holding and those. Can you just walk through the process a little bit of somebody who's never reached out to an attorney, and how is the best way to kind of navigate that, I guess?
So I think I always encourage people always meet with a family law attorney, even if you have a full agreement. It's always good just to get questions answered. And a lot of attorneys will do a free consultation, a complimentary one. I offer a free 30-minute consultation. Some attorneys require a full hour and to pay for that. I mean, I do charge for a full hour, but there are attorneys out there that will voluntarily, give a free 30-minute consultation. So at least go talk to a few of them and get some answers to any questions you might have about your rights, what that looks like for children, for, division of property, retirements, things like that. One thing that probably comes up a lot in your field is what happens if there's infidelity, right? Whether it's financial or romantic. And unfortunately, California is a no-fault state, so they're not going to reprimand somebody who does engage in those behaviors. If it's financial, there is some recourse there, but for romantic, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't paint that picture to the court and they're going to lose custody because they've made a decision, to be unfaithful. But, with the process in general, like, different courts, different counties have self-help. They have family law facilitators. So there's also people out there to help you navigate the filing of the documents, to help you answer questions. Some counties are better than others. Some resources are better. There's also the California court website. They literally provide step-by-step instructions on what forms to file, how to go through that process. So if you don't want to hire an attorney, there's a lot of resources online. Sacramento County has a really good resource too, where, they walk you through the steps on what to file and what to do. So, but in general, it doesn't hurt to ask questions to a family law attorney.
Yeah, I think knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I watch my clients, they get looping in their head about the what if without even having the answer to move forward on it. So really coming to somebody like yourself or your team and just getting the answers seems most important. But I just know it can be very overwhelming. And I love that you do offer a little intro session, and that is a really great idea to do that.
And just be careful what you Google. I come in, I talk to people like,
we talked about this in the membership.
It's true. Like, people Google is great. It is definitely a great resource, or like Chat GPT now. But just be careful what information you find, because literally as an attorney, it's like your situation, or you talk to friends. My friend had this happen, and this is what happened in their case. Well, they could have had a different judge. It could have been a different, you don't know all the facts. You don't know everything. So just be mindful that your situation is not going to be like the next person's, and it's not going to be like what you read online. Right. The law is black and white, but there is so much gray in family law and in any area. But it's really, the judges have so much discretion, so they're not going to have maybe the same outcome in one case as a different, different case. Right. It's really important to know, don't be so stuck on an outcome, because it could always be different.
Yes. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And so hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, totally. If you want it a certain way and there's no way it can be a different way, right?
Yeah, I can't change the law for you. This is what we have. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see as the most rewarding parts of your job? And when you are able to help somebody, what's the feel good? Is it for you? Is it an outcome? What makes this worth it for you?
When somebody comes to me and they really want to get a divorce, and they, that is their end goal, it's kind of funny, but in our office, once we get the divorce documents back to us, we do actually, we all cheer, oh yeah, we got it done, right?
Yeah.
Divorces
can take, that was
they can take a really long time, and especially if we got it done pretty quickly. But as far as helping clients and just that process, when I have a consultation with somebody and I can see the fear and the anxiety and the stress, and them just kind of feeling the weight come off their shoulders, you can literally physically see that change once they know that there's somebody there walking them through the process, that somebody there is going to help them with everything, whether it's the paperwork, whether it's being their voice, whether it's advocating and fighting for them, fighting for the kids, whatever that might be. Just to be able to like relieve them of that pressure and that stress so they can sleep at night. I mean, I've had clients literally say like, I haven't slept in weeks, and because of like, they don't have to stress about it because it's not something they're doing, they're having somebody help them with. So holding their hand and walking them through the process, albeit difficult, it really, I set out as a young kid, like I wanted to be an attorney to help people. And I didn't know in what capacity. And what I do is not always easy. It's not always a win-win. It's generally a lose-lose. But being able to walk somebody through that process, knowing that they have a voice and an advocate, and they don't have to do it alone, and they're not alone, is just, it's such a gift to be able to do that.
Well, that's life, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? It's not always pretty, but the pockets of joy are where you find them and where you look for them, and the miracles and feeling supported along the way. That's a beautiful thing to offer.
Why we have therapists and friends and, people.
Takes a village. Right?
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's a common question, right? Like, how long does it take to get a divorce?
If everything is like, agreeable and everyone's, amicable, I would say I've gotten divorces done in 3 months. Okay. That is a miracle, but usually average about a year.
Yeah.
If it's something where it's, custody is going to be an issue where we're litigating, support's going to be litigated, property's litigated, you're probably looking at closer to 2 years.
Yeah.
I've had one that's taken 8 years.
Yeah.
But a lot of people,
extenuating circumstances on all of it.
They get so burnt out that they stop doing everything, and then they come to it later and like, okay, I'm finally ready to get this done. But it's draining, it's exhausting, it's emotional. So, there's a roller coaster.
Yeah. And then I know estate planning is a whole other side of your business, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's very important, specifically, for all people, but I just have a heart working for women sometimes, but what do you advise to know about that and when to implement that? And do you have just any tips for people that might be listening in regards to that?
I think anybody who's living should have an estate plan.
Yep.
Most people say like, I don't own my house. It doesn't matter. Or they don't have enough assets. They're not millionaires. They're not rich. They don't have kids. And these are all reasons why people don't think they need one. If you're an adult, you really need an estate plan. Like once you become an adult, like your parents can no longer make financial decisions or health decisions for you. So even without a power of attorney or healthcare directive, like parents can like literally be barred from doing certain things if a child, an adult
even when your
child,
kids are 18, if they get an accident, you can't even have rights to them. I just learned this because my kids are of that age. Things like
exactly.
This.
Which is why they need to have a power of attorney or healthcare directive. But as women, what I find is usually they take a backseat to finances and they kind of just allow their spouse to kind of manage the finances, to kind of handle everything. And then they kind of just have a blind eye and they don't really know what is going on. They don't know if they have life insurance. They don't know if where their retirement is or savings. So I think it's important just to know, like just ask questions, be aware, have access to accounts and certain things, even if you're not the one that's driving that, a decision.
Yeah.
Because if something happens to your spouse and you don't know anything, then you're literally having to scrounge through. And nowadays we don't get statements; it's all online. So like having a spreadsheet of like the different financial institutions, the website, the username, the passwords. Those are all things that are really important because even like is me like my spouse. Even though I'm in this role, like he handles a lot of the things, but like he's very transparent with all of the passwords and where we are, and so I can just go in and access everything because I know how to. But most people don't.
Yeah.
And so as an estate planning attorney, if something happens to your spouse where they're in the hospital and they're in a coma and you don't know how to access, like, do you have a life insurance? Do you have a disability policy?
Yeah.
Like just making sure that you are aware of where the accounts are being held and if you need to have access to get access. Just ask the hard questions. Sometimes spouses may not be as forthcoming with that information, but I think it's important to know. If you own a home, even though if the bank owns the majority of it, that house should be in trust to avoid probate. Having a will, even if you don't have a house, so to ensure that you have a designated executor, you have designated beneficiaries, especially if you don't want it to go to certain family members, because otherwise it's going to be distributed by operational law. And what's interesting, as a a married person in California, if you don't have a trust or a will saying that your spouse gets everything, if something happens to your spouse, they only get 50%. The remaining 50% goes to technically your children. So it's interesting that people think, oh, my spouse will get everything. If it's titled that way, they will, but otherwise it wouldn't. It'd be distributed by operation of law.
Yeah. Another great example as to why it's worth figuring out exactly what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the estate planning, I have this would be me is, my husband does do a lot of our financials. We get together and we agree on a lot of the things, but he just, I have these roles, he has this role. So I think there's a lot of women that might be in that similar position, or even vice versa. The male might be in that position, right? So, the idea, I think, from a lot of people is, well, I'd have to figure out all of the things before I go do my estate plan. My thinking is that's not accurate, that you as an estate planner and Onyx Law Firm would say, here, go gather these things and like guide you through that process. Is that more the truth of how that works?
Kind of, sort of. So when you schedule an appointment with our office, we send you an intake form that asks you those questions. So that's the guidance, right? So we say, okay, go gather this information. Where are the accounts held? Who's the owner of the account? Are there beneficiaries? Life insurance policies, all of that. So we ask you to fill that out before we meet with you. So then I can look at it and say, okay, based upon your property, your accounts, this is what I would recommend. This is what you should do. I mean, not everyone needs a trust. Some people do, some people don't. And then just ensuring that the estate plan fits them and their goals and what they want to have done.
Yeah. So you are held. And yes, it's not that is your checkoff list is the intake. Which is great. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people think it's very burdensome and like, oh, they have to get everything together. I'm like, no, it's really not that intricate. Like it's pretty simple.
Right.
You don't have to go and, it's not as hard as it seems.
That's what we do with anything we don't know, though. We make it a bigger deal than it probably is.
It's very daunting.
Yes.
And then we put it off and then guess what happens? It's too late. And then you're in probate.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's circle back to some of your fun training. So you trained in Europe.
Yes.
Austria?
Yes.
Okay. So what was that like?
It was an amazing experience. So through McGeorge, we had a partnership with Justice Anthony Kennedy for the International Legal Studies. And when you go to law school, you just get your Juris Doctorate. I was taking classes that were interesting, like through international law. And so by just some of those classes, I'm like, oh, well, I could just get this specialty certificate and then obviously go to have the opportunity to go to Salzburg. And it was just great to be able to, to be taught by Justice Anthony Kennedy. And he was just he was older then too, but such a knowledgeable but very down to earth person. And to meet him and his wife and have dinner with them, it was an overall great experience. I had some friends that went with me, so I just immersed myself in the culture. A lot of people left on the weekends to go travel other countries, and I just hung out there and really got to like be immersed in Salzburg, which is beautiful. I mean, The Sound of Music was filmed there, and I just loved every aspect of it. It was great.
I was able to go there when I was probably 19, and it was beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Mirabelle Gardens. And the people are so friendly. I just love sitting at the cafes and watching people walk by and drink your cappuccino. It was great. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Anything else that you feel is important to share today?
If you're in a situation when it comes to, family law and something's happening within the household, if you're concerned about any sort of it doesn't really matter. Like if you're just concerned and you have some questions before you make a decision, talk to an attorney about it. I mean, they're always going to give you some information. And if you're maybe planning to file for divorce or custody, having an attorney help you with gathering information, what to do before you go through that process, how to navigate that. If you're in a situation where there is an emergency or there's any sort of domestic violence or abuse, I unfortunately do a lot of domestic violence restraining orders, but don't feel like you have to live in that situation and be alone. And there's resources out there for people to help you. There's free legal attorneys, legal help that will help you walk through that process, so you do not have to live in that situation. It's really sad, when people come to you years later and there's that situation going on and the children are caught in the crossfire. So, but yeah, in general, just don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah. So you said this a couple times, to be able to come to and ask questions, which I so appreciate. And that was a very good example as to why with the DV situation, right? Because somebody could be in a harmful situation for too long, right?
Yeah.
With other situations like marriage, kids, that advice comes from you seeing the other side of it for sure. So what are you at risk of if you do not go seek counsel quickly?
Oftentimes you will agree to things that maybe you shouldn't agree to. And that's for every area, right? Whether it's kids, money, property division. Oftentimes you agree to things because you just want to get away, and you make an emotional decision that you're going to regret later. And you don't even know what your rights are, because there are times where maybe one person has an attorney and then the other person doesn't, and that attorney might be helping, but they can't legally advise you. And so you feel like maybe they're helping you, but they're really not. So just to have your own separate independent counsel, even if it's just a consulting attorney. There's many times where I have clients going through mediation, and I just consult them on the side so they can walk into mediation prepared. They can be armed with facts and knowledge, which knowledge is power. So if you don't have that knowledge, or you don't have the facts, and you're going into a mediation appointment thinking like, the other person has all the answers and you don't really have any options, that's not true. You always have an option, and you don't always have to agree to what somebody wants because they're bullying you to agree to that. There's always people there that will be an advocate for you. And there's just so many different things. But what I would say too is there's a plethora of communities online. I get a lot of referrals through Facebook. Make your own decision too. Like at the end of the day, I get good reviews. I do get bad reviews. Sometimes I don't even know why these people are leaving me reviews. They're generally opposing parties, which means I probably did my job if I'm upsetting them. But talk to more than one attorney. There are good family law attorneys, and there's not so good family law attorneys
in any field, right?
But just don't feel like you're stuck if you have one that's not advocating for you. Like, it's okay to switch,
or not a right fit for you.
Exactly. And you might have a breakdown of that relationship, so it's important to seek somebody who's going to help you.
I'm really glad we circled back on that, because I think some of those reasons of just not being informed, or not knowing what you should do, or doing something under pressure. I'm sure you see that and are able to really see the signs of somebody who's kind of collapsing on themselves. They just want to get it over, and have the ability to just kind of walk them through that and say, hold up, we just need to slow this down. And here's some possibilities. Here's some other options. It's really invaluable in times when you're really stressed.
I always tell my client, when we're about to sign that final judgment, don't agree to something today that 5 years from now you're going to regret. Right? Because that emotional decision has a heavy price tag when you're walking away from maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars because you just want to be done. And then 5 years down the road, you don't have anything to fall back on, and you're like, dang it, I should have never agreed to that. I should have listened to my attorney.
Yes. And you were just reminding me of something. I think you shared it when you spoke with the membership, that to some people will say, well, I don't want their money, or I don't personally want it. And then you had a response about where it could possibly go to their kids, or to,
because you realize you're invested in a marriage, right? And so there's a reason why California is community property. And so the day that you get married, everything becomes 50-50. And one person might be the financial breadwinner, one person might be taking care of the kids, but those roles are equal. We don't look at it as you're less than because you're a caretaker. Although some people might be felt they're told to feel that way. It's not true. And so if you're walking away from maybe retirement or some money, some support, at the end of the day, that money could be going to your future, maybe taking care of your kids or yourself if something happens. So don't ever feel guilty or bad for taking something that you're legally entitled to, that the judge would give you willingly. I mean, you're obviously able to make some concessions. I always tell people, like, if you're waiving something, whether it's retirement or money, there's got to be some reason for that. There's got to be consideration. Like, why are you waiving that? What are you getting in return? If you're just walking away from it for no reason, as an attorney, I tell people, like, I would not suggest that.
Right.
And again, that goes back to, don't make a decision today that 5 years down the road, you're going to be kicking yourself because you can't undo it. Right.
Yeah.
And I have had people come in my office, have me review judgments years down the road. Like, is there any way I can get out of this?
Yeah.
Is there any way I can change this? It's like, no, you can't.
Right.
And so you have to just forward think about, like, what does your future look like? And nobody knows.
Yes.
Nobody knows. Like, you could become disabled. Your children can become disabled. So you have to ensure you have the proper resources in those situations.
Yeah. All such a good examples as to why to go seek advice.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, you are offering a little bit of a consultation or I think 10% off of a estate planning plan.
Yeah. So anybody that mentions the podcast or Heart Wide Open Wellness, I'll offer a free 1 hour consultation, which is normally $375.
Fantastic.
Actually, maybe it's $400. My hourly rate's $400.
Raise your rates, girl.
Either way, complimentary. And then for an estate planning package, if they were to get a full package, we would offer a 10% discount.
That's very generous of you. Thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Adore you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast. For more information, subscribe to our newsletter at heartwideopenwellness.com and follow us on social media at Heart Wide Open Wellness.